If you're an agency owner or a founder and you've tried to grow on YouTube only to realize you need about 10 hours a week to finish one YouTube video that only gets like 7 views when it gets posted, and the editing on that video, let's be honest, isn't the editing that you requested from the editor. I'm Matevz from Content Fueled, and we've helped over 50 plus agency owners and founders systemize their YouTube production so they can do it in less than 3 hours per week. And overall, we've added about $1.5 million in revenue from YouTube with clients like Flowout, a Webflow agency, who with the help of YouTube landed clients like Stripe, ActiveCampaign, and PayPal. And for example, Isaac Perdomo, who has an accounting firm automation agency, who added $80,000 in revenue in the first year of posting. And he mentioned specifically those calls from YouTube were the easiest calls ever to close in his time running the agency. So I can tell you that there's one specific misconception that prevents most agency owners and business owners from growing on YouTube, and it's that YouTube is basically one skill to master, whereas YouTube is very different than every other platform. For example, on LinkedIn, you can basically learn writing, become pretty good at it, and most likely you're going to be able to grow your following. But with YouTube, it's more like 10 skills packed into one platform. So you need marketing strategy, design, editing, camera skills, speaking skills, script writing, SEO, conversion optimization, lead magnets. There's just so much packed into that platform. And the problem is, if you lack one of these skills, if you miss one step in the process, YouTube is not going to work for you. And this is the reason why it doesn't work for most agency owners. So the question is, do you have to learn everything there is about YouTube to make it work? And the answer is no. There's actually a specific 6-step process that we take clients through every time we onboard them that allowed us to close that 1.5 million in revenue in less than 3 hours per week for clients. And I'm gonna run you through every step of the process in this video. So the first step you need to do to get YouTube to work is to have the right strategy, attracting the right audience. How this looks like is we usually create a outline of an ICP and their pains, fears, desires, misconceptions, everything about them, so we know what content to make to attract them. This might sound basic, but it's the one step that a lot of people make mistakes in. And the problem is, if you make mistakes in step 1, it trickles down into every other step, and then you can't get the end results, you can't get business results from YouTube, right? So what happens here when we outline these things is we narrow down the topics that you can talk about, because if you go too wide with the topics, you end up with a YouTube channel that gets views but doesn't get business results, because your effort is going into people who are never going to buy. An example of this is, for example, I run an agency that helps agency owners grow on YouTube, right? But I have other skills too that could be applicable to business owners or to maybe somebody starting out. For example, I could talk about discipline, I could talk about how to schedule your week, I could even talk about social media marketing strategy overall. But the problem is, if I talked about those topics, I would be attracting people that are not going to buy. For example, I would be attracting students from productivity videos. I would be attracting people who are just starting out their business with social media marketing strategy or maybe scheduling your week. And those people just don't have the money to pay our team to help them out with YouTube, and frankly they don't even need YouTube. So we need to be really specific, and we need to get this step right to make every other step work. Otherwise we're just attracting people who are never going to buy. The next thing we do is we do competition and market research. And at this stage, we're looking for videos that are outliers in your market, so high demand and low competition topics. Because if you just start making videos about specific pain points that you brainstormed on an Notion doc or a Google Doc, maybe your video will take off, but chances are most likely it won't, because there's not a lot of demand on it, or there is demand but a lot of people are competing for the same topic. So we find gaps in the market where the demand is high and the competition is low. And that allows us to make videos that get thousands of views, even years down the line, and basically do that for channels that are starting from zero. You can see here in this example, this is one of the first videos that we posted for Flowout, one of our clients. The channel basically had almost 0 subscribers. In the first few days, it got a few views. But because the topic was high demand and low competition, and we basically made sure the packaging and everything else was right, we found a gap in the market. The video ranked pretty fast on search and it got thousands of views, bringing a lot of traffic to their website and increasing their brand awareness. Over the course of the next few years, you can see this video is almost 3 years old. And when you find that kind of gap, you can just stack the videos that are talking about the topics that work for you on top of each other. And that's how you get a channel that's growing predictably and not just randomly posting video left and right with views ranging from 6 to 50 views. Now, the biggest problem about step 1 is even if you find the right topics and have the right strategy and have everything when it comes to foundations in place, you're not going to be able to get much results from it, and if you don't complete step 2. And step 2 is making it easy for yourself to record, because most likely if you tried YouTube or even video content overall, you've realized the hassle of just setting up the cameras, making sure you look good, having the microphone not work and then work, and not knowing how to troubleshoot everything builds up a lot of resistance when it comes to actually sitting down and recording videos. So the next step we take clients through is building a setup that actually makes it easy to record for you. What this usually means is we get them a mic like this that's attached to a table. The camera that I'm looking at right now is attached to the table also. It's connected to my computer that's right in front of me where I'm doing the screen share from, and I have a light right next to me and behind me that are always there attached to the table. I don't have to move anything to go record. What I basically do to start recording is I turn on the camera there, I open up a specific software called Demo Creator here on my computer, I press record, and I can just go and record, right? So there's no moving lights, there's no setting up the mics, there's none of that. There's just press record and go, which decreases resistance and makes me a lot more likely to create YouTube videos or overall video content than if I had to spend half an hour every week setting up the equipment and making sure everything works to get YouTube videos out. Now, if setup is a problem for you, we have a pretty good resource down in the description where Uraj, our account manager, takes you through how to build a good setup where you look good on camera pretty easily with all the gear recommendations and everything else based on your specific use case. That will make it much easier if you try to build a setup yourself and much easier to record later on. So go down in the description, you can get it for free. Build your setup and start recording. Now the next step is what most people usually forget to do, and it's the one step that actually results in bad edits that maybe are not the editor's fault actually. So step 3 is building a brand doc. What a brand doc is basically a document where you have all of your fonts, all of your colors, all of your logos, and the style of editing you want. This is important because if the editor doesn't have a brand doc to follow, the editor is basically faced with 2 different options. So the first option is make a decision by themselves on what looks good and what might fit your branding and what you might like, and just create that and come up with a video that they then send to you later, where you're just like looking at the video and thinking, this isn't at all what I want it to look like. So that's option 1, and it's a pretty bad option. Option 2 is they actually realize that if they make a decision by themselves, it's going to be a subjective decision. So you might not like what they do and they're going to spend hours of their time and a lot of your dollars to make a video you don't like. So they default to asking questions about each part that they need in the video. So what ends up happening is you have this editor, but he's constantly asking questions to be able to deliver the type of video that you want. So you're spending hours working with the editor that should just do the edit themselves and come up with a video that looks good to you and just requires maybe some minimal edits. But if the editor has a brand doc, they can basically default to the brand doc every time they have a question. So when they're looking for fonts, they look for fonts. When they're looking for colors, they look for colors. Then they find logos, and everything else is inside the brand doc. Now, one thing a lot of people don't include, and it's the reason why the editor cannot add it in their style, is the inspiration of what you want your videos to look like. I was editing for a few years before I started my agency, and I know the easiest way to find a style for a client is for them to send over 5 or 10 examples of videos or creators that they like and model that, but just apply their branding to it. So if you have that, the editor should come up with videos that are 90% to 95% done, and maybe you just have some simple edits to add. And actually, most of the edits that are going to happen, if the process is right, and that's the case with our clients, is on the first video. And once you get that done, it's just smooth sailing from then onwards. So now the biggest problem when it comes to editing is that it's only 20% of what actually drives results on YouTube, and the other 80% is in your production process. So remember in the beginning where I told you that YouTube is basically 10 skills packed into one platform, and that the reason why most agency owners fail at YouTube is because they miss one step, they miss one skill in the process, and the YouTube video just doesn't work because of that. That's why you have to establish a streamlined production process that makes sure that you do the right research every time you come up with a new video. You focus on the high demand and low competition topics. You find a packaging, so title and thumbnail, that actually works. Connect that with the hook, so the first part of video, to make sure people actually see they're gonna get what they were promised when they clicked on the video. Make a script to deliver on the promise of the title, thumbnail, and the hook, and then record the video, edit and add the thumbnail, and then afterwards also add the keywords and everything else when it comes to SEO. So all of these steps have to be in line in order for a YouTube video to work. Now let me give you an example from one of our clients, and it's the same client here. What we did, for example, to get this channel off the ground is we were looking at vidIQ. vidIQ is a very good tool that basically shows you how much search volume there is per month for a specific keyword and what the competition for that keyword is. And this allows you to find topics that have high search volumes but low competition, so you can focus on that. But that's only half of the equation. So with Flowout, we realized that there's a lot of people searching for comparisons between Webflow and other platforms. So we said, okay, let's make a comparison. So we decided, okay, Webflow versus WordPress, and we started looking at what kind of videos were out there already. And what we realized pretty quickly is there's actually quite a bit of comparisons, but the problem is all the comparisons are like 14 or 20 minutes long. And when I was looking at those videos, I basically realized a lot of this information could just be packed inside 1-2 minute YouTube video. So I started thinking what kind of video to make it the most valuable for the viewer. And I modeled it after Alex Hormozy's value equation. If you don't know what it is, it's basically an equation to know what the value of a certain thing you do is. So what it says is dream outcome times perceived likelihood of achievement divided by time delay times effort and sacrifice is value. Now, what this means in practice is the better the dream outcome and the better the perceived likelihood of achievement and the lower the time delay and effort and sacrifice, the higher value something is. So I was thinking, okay, if these videos are all 15 minutes long, how can we make our video more valuable than all of these videos? And the person's dream outcome here is just to get the comparison. The perceived likelihood of achievement is high because getting a comparison isn't really a hard thing to do, right? Isn't really not believable. But the problem is most of these videos have pretty high time delay and effort and sacrifice, because for the person to get a comparison, they needed to spend like 20 minutes to 1 hour watching different videos to get a feel of the landscape on Webflow versus WordPress. So we decided to make a 2-minute series on all the platform comparisons. And all these videos had results like this. They got a few views in the first few days, and years down the line, they're still getting views because we found a gap in the market that actually allowed us to create videos that have high demand, low competition, packaging that works, script and hook to deliver on it. So the script had to be 2 minutes long and the hook had to promise script and hook to deliver on it, and then the editing and everything else fell into place. And if we missed one step in the process, like picking the wrong topic, our videos wouldn't have worked. Now, the biggest problem about this is it takes a lot of time to actually do the process right if you don't know what you're doing. So step 5 is making it easier for yourself by building a production team. Now, the minimal viable production team that you can use for YouTube is have a designer, have an editor, and have a YouTube strategist. If you have these 3 people, the strategist is basically taking care of the process and looking at the process from high level so they know everything's in line and it has the highest chance or likelihood to succeed on YouTube. The designer works on creating the thumbnails and creating the creatives to post the YouTube videos so they look good and they have high click-through rates. And the editor is adding the 20% off top of your setup, your speaking skills. The strategists work on making the script and everything else connected and just making it that much more polished, making you look that much more professional. Now, the problem is this is pretty hard to build out. So down in the description, you can either book a call with us and we can build this out for you, or you can just work with our team on creating your YouTube videos. Or if you don't know if YouTube is the right step for your agency right now, we built a 90-second form where you put in basic information about your agency and the challenges you have in the sales and marketing process. And when you put in the information, it gives you a personalized answer on whether you should go into YouTube and how to set it up to get the most out of it. So it's linked below. You can get it below. It takes 90 seconds and it's free. So if you want it, just click the link below. And if you want to work directly with us, just book a call. Okay. Now, if you know all the steps and all the things that you need to do, everything starts with getting high demand and low competition topics. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to find those topics, how to do the research to get the high demand and low competition topics, and how to think about topics so that you can also get your videos ranked, even if your channel has 0 views. So click on the next video here behind me, and I'll see you there. Thank you. Bye.